We are now going to have a conversation, continuing to have the conversation about, the food prices in the country. Cost of living is high. What's going to happen? What's the best way? What is next for Kenyans? Member of Parliament representing the people of Westlands Constituency in Nairobi, Wanyonyi, is our next guest. Good morning.
Morning.
Good to have you, Mheshimiwa.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm happy.
Very good.
Yes.
City has the day's proverb. This man looks like City Muga. The last time you were here, you saw a different City.
Yes.
Man walked in here this morning, about half an hour into the show, and he looked like City. And I think City is somewhere doing one or two things, and he has sent a body double who sounds like City.
This is a 6-monthly ritual. Every 6 months, I reduce all the hair on my face. My face includes my head. So I reduce it. Now, this is the reduction.
This is it.
Yes. So I've been reducted.
So every 6 months, City goes on holiday and sends us this guy who comes with a script saying, 6 months, blah, blah, blah. Okay. City is double ganger. Please give us the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of DRC. Even without drum beats, the banana leaves dance.
Even without drum beats, the banana leaves dance.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa team, this proverb, it's from the DRC. What's your interpretation of it?
When we are young, we used to be told you are sent to the market, and they tell you that if you see there is a particular grass which dances to the wind, and it dances very well. They say when you see it dancing, don't stop. Just continue with your journey. So some things in life, they remain constant. They don't change. And your happiness sometimes is not defined. It's defined by the environment around you. And that's how I look at it. That the leaves will dance because the environment around it is still conducive for it to exist. Yeah.
It's not the drum beats. Some external factors that are not related to what actually makes them dance.
And many of us are defined by that. Even when we define disability, is by the environment around you, how you react to it. For example, if I come here and there was just a single step, it will hinder me from entering here.
Yeah.
But I find that there's nothing hindering me. I came straight. So the environment sometimes defines anything you want to do or what you want to achieve in your life. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, we just had a conversation with Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Yes.
And at the beginning of the conversation, he was telling us that his phone is constantly inundated with messages from constituents asking for help here and there because of the tough economic situation. Somebody saying, I'd like to send my child to school. Please assist me with school fees. Somebody saying, I have not been able to feed my family, or I'm having difficulty just feeding my family. How can you help me? You are not a 1 or 2 term member of Parliament for Westlands Constituency. What are you? Can you say the same is happening with your phone?
Unlike the senator, I have a constituency office, and all requests or anything that people want from me, they direct to the office. And along the way I've served the people of Westlands, we agreed, my phone, you call me when it's very necessary. Otherwise, if you have something that you want attended to, go to the office and we will serve you. And it works.
What kind of requests is your office receiving?
Fees, funeral, health issues, all manner of things, by the way. All manner of things. Somebody comes and says, my children have not eaten for 2 days. So you sometimes, you don't even ask a question. You just have to do something for them. Yeah.
But is there any
things
difference?
are bad. Things are really bad.
How different is it this time from how it was, let's say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
No, right now it's worse. It's bad. There's no money, There's nothing going on. Like, people have closed down. Even those who are employed have been fired, and they have to pay rent. They have to feed their children. Children have to go to school. And the other thing that is now really bothering us is the kind of school fees schools are asking from parents. Now, even primary schools, which we know is supposed to be free education, they are paying fees, and not small fees. They are paying a lot of money. Look at this monster called junior secondary. This junior secondary, I don't know of what purpose is going to serve in our education system, because these children are just trapped somewhere in between. There's a standard 8, there's a junior secondary, this another level of, and there the transition is that they must have uniform like the secondary school. And the standard 7 who are senior to them, they are wearing the normal primary uniform. So, and then they are paying also a lot of money. Uniform alone is costing almost 20,000 uniform. And the government has promised they'll pay 15,000 for their capitation. That money has not arrived in schools.
Not yet.
These children are supposed to be in schools. The infrastructure has not changed. At first, they had put this thing at the second school.
Yes.
The second, then they moved it back to the primary schools.
Yeah.
So most of those schools are not prepared to receive this junior second. So they are there trapped somewhere, and they have one teacher. The government posted one teacher.
I mean, we could sit for days and talk about the different things that need attention. We can talk from, the rising cost of living, food and otherwise. We can talk about, the diabolical situation in the education sector that you mentioned. We can talk about the health sector. We can talk about infrastructure. We can go on and on and on. As somebody who has seen things unfold in being able to govern a particular area, is it possible to be able to keep a handle on all of these things and do them well at the same time? I think that would set now a course for us to now be able to discuss. Is it possible to be able to say, okay, let me handle education a little bit, sort it out. Let me see what I can do to make life a little bit more bearable for the citizen in terms of food and livelihood. Let me see if I can sort out the health. Is it possible for all these things to be handled simultaneously?
It's a delicate balance, but sometimes you have to look at what is most urgent thing to be done. For example, somebody who comes, children have not gone to school, but the worst thing is that they have not fed for a day or so. So even if you enable them to go to school, these people are hungry. They need to eat. And without food, that child, even if he goes to school, it's a useless thing because he will not concentrate, he will not learn. And so we have to start with the basics. These people need food, bottom line. And then you can sort out the other things. Once you sort out the stomach issues, at least the rest can sort themselves out. And we have always said, the government, don't try to do everything at the same time. Do the basics. Let the people do the rest. Because if people are able to have food, if people are able to go for have health check without any issues, and people have security, the rest of the things they'll sort themselves out. I believe that. Yeah.
During the COVID period, the government then reacted to helping people cope with the situation. Understanding that people were not going to be going to work, understanding that there were many people who were losing jobs, understanding that even businesses had to shut down because of COVID, the government came up with all these measures. For example, reduction in VAT, reduction in income tax, setting aside money and saying that this money is going to help people, indigents here and there. Is it the kind of thing that you hope the government would do, or do you have a different approach this time?
I think the best thing is to do things that are sustainable, because some of those were just short interventions that can enable people move on or deal with the current situation. But going forward, you cannot sustain that, because if you say the government will feed people, then people will sit back and wait for it to be fed. Some other countries, they create, like in India, they have something called the ration shops, whereby people go there and get these things at very, very affordable rates that they can, go on feeding themselves and doing things like that. But here, I think we have not had a good solution to reach even these handouts that we see people going to relief food, strinini. That relief food, they will give you once, and then they go away.
Yeah.
They don't know how you'll survive after when this food is over. So it is better we do something that is consistent, that is sustainable, than coming up with just short interventions. Because if we say we must find a way, I was listening to the president of Zimbabwe and saying they have found a way now to have a food security, and they're going to do irrigation, and this irrigation will produce enough food that will feed the citizens of the country. He says they can even now they have learned that with their own scientists, with the war in Ukraine, they can produce fertilizer instead of importing fertilizer. So you have to look for homegrown solutions, and these sometimes are just within the people. Me, when we were growing up, these problems we are seeing today, they were never there. People produced food. People produced, basics that were there. Only a few things that were maybe hard to come about, but the rest of the things were available.
What are these sustainable solutions then?
Sustainable solution is to make sure that you create an enabling environment for people to find a way to work and earn a living. And that you make sure that the government must make sure that the tax level must be reduced, and then the access to credit facilities, those who are doing business, are affordable. The farmers who are farming, they must have a market for their food and their stuff to go and sell, and on like that. And as we say, if education is free, it must be free. It should not be free just by policy, but it's not free at all. Yeah, and the minister looks helpless. I don't know why.
Which minister?
The Minister for Education. He seems not to know what is actually his commandate. He seems to be.
Mheshimiwa, one of the things that I think would confuse anybody who ascends to a position of authority, like, say, a minister, is that some of these problems we speak of are not a creation of this government. They are things that have existed. They've simply come in at a time when, should we say, the intensity of the problems are greater. And the manner in which they go about handling these particular problems, or at least what we are presented with, doesn't inspire confidence that they are actually going to solve the problems they're claiming that they're solving. You see, when one gets mixed messages, and Mheshimiwa Sifuna said this clearly, and you've repeated it, that if the fundamentals aren't being taken care of, then how do you expect someone to believe in these grander things that you keep talking about, and yet something which is fundamental to them, and everybody agrees it is fundamental, cannot be resolved? So how then can you claim, and how believable is it that you will then be able to resolve a far more complex problem?
Yes. And the problem is, sometimes we want to solve a problem and you don't know what the problem is. These people, if they went down to the ground and they went to the place where people are living and also have that interaction with what is happening, especially in schools. Me, I spend time in my schools and I know what goes on in those schools. So if I go there and they tell me that they don't have toilets, I know for sure they don't have toilets. I'll have to do for them that thing. And these are some of the things that we want these ministers to come out of their big offices and go to the people and listen to the people. And the Constitution provides that before you make some certain decisions, there must be public participation. You must go there and
engage.
Fanya hizi baraza na watu.
Do you think the problem is that they don't really that they don't understand what people are going through, and that's now why you see this? Do you think that they don't know, or that they do know but are not giving it the requisite action?
They have theories, but they don't have practical solutions. Somebody will advise him, an officer who sits in the office. For example, the guys who sit in Treasury. When you go there and say, Ministry of Education's budget is 500 billion, the guy with a pen, without even asking why 500 billion, he will just reduce that money maybe to 200 billion. He has not gone out there to find out what is it that this guy wants this kind of money. They just reduce with a pen. No. Sometimes that is where the problem begins. There are people who have got disconnect between what is the real thing and what is in his mind. So he wants to do this, but his mind is telling him something different. So you go there, argue with them before they agree. And even if they agree, reluctantly they set a certain limit. We are giving you this much. I know this will work. So you go back there and start saying, where can we reduce? And people have already budgeted. Maybe they have already even spent that money. Yeah.
Is there a case to be made for spending money in the interim to take care of these problems? I mean, because again, previously we heard that, look, while these plans that you have are unfolding, because look, there are plans, Mushimura.
Yes.
There are plans to get things done. We have heard, well, we'll wait and see the result of those. But is there merit in saying, okay, gather up some shillings here, put money in subsidies so that people can eat today, make things a little bit easier. If you need to then go back to Parliament and say, guys, we need some money to be able to sort out this education problem. I mean, like you said, well, we're going to the end of the first term in school and there's some capitation money that has not been released to schools. The reason being that Treasury is not able to release because there's no money.
Yeah.
So does it make sense to look for a little bit more in the interim, spend a bit of it, in order to release the pressure that there is on the people, send your children to school, put money into some of these places so that we can have a reduced pressurized system as we wait for these other things to come about?
That is correct. There's always a way to find a quick solution, a quick intervention. Then after that, then you look for a long-term solution. Because like now, the cost of food, we know in 3 or 4 months, people will harvest food. There will be more food. Then they can go back to the normal. But right now, things are not working because there's no food. There's no people don't have money and on like that. So if the government comes in with short interventions, then they can allow people now, once food is harvested and there's food in the market, then the price can go back to the normal and let things work the way they have to work. But sometimes that is not the situation. We create that, and you see right now, people have, if you go to the Rift Valley and western part of Kenya, the farmers have food, a lot of it, and they want to sell. The government is not buying, but the government is talking about importing. So how can you import when you have not known what is the shortfall? If you buy what the farmers have and you say now we are expecting 6 million packs, but we only managed to get 4, we have now to import 2 million to kuchasa hii pengo iko hapa. But now, if we have not done that, how do you just go to import and you are leaving the farmers food to rot in their homes and their stores?
So, Mushima, what exactly is our problem? Is it food shortage or high food prices? Because food shortage is not really the issue. Food shortage would mean you go to the market and there are no items in the market. You go to shops and there are empty shelves.
What the problem is, we should be real. We should actually solve our problems by dealing with the situation as it is there. Because if you say we have food shortage and you have not gone to the ground and establish that there's food shortage. The millers, now you talk about the millers, these big guys who are milling, they buy these things from the government stores. So if the government does not have this food in the stores, these guys will look for alternative and buy, and they will buy from outside. They will not buy even from the local farmers. So some of those things, I believe that in those days in the 70s, in the 80s, we used to have these things called cooperative societies. And the cooperative societies are the ones who used to buy food from the farmers, and then they take it to the market, to the silos. Now, the farmers have to go and sell direct to the silos, and sometimes it's very difficult because a farmer who has just sent 10 packs of maize, how will he go and struggle and go and queue at the silos for days and days before they sell?
Yeah.
And you reach there, they'll tell you, you pour down all the maize you have brought, because they have to check the moisture content, they have to check what. So it is very difficult. But those cooperative societies, I think they were a very good idea, and the government maybe should think of reviving those cooperative societies in those local areas. And also, India has got so many people, and India is able to feed themselves. During the reign of Indira Gandhi, she came up with something called agrarian revolution. And that agrarian revolution was now to revolutionize how they can produce enough food to feed their population without looking outside. And they identified areas where they can do that. And those areas, they went and combined small farms into big farms and moved people to something they created called model towns. They live in model towns. The farms are left so that they can do a large-scale farming. And with that, they are able to solve their problem with food. They'll produce enough food. Those people who are moved to model towns, now the government will bring those food now in those something called ration shops, so that they go there and collect their food from there. But those farms which were surrendered to the government, they were paid, and the government compensates them for that. So you find that, I think that was a very good way of doing that for India to solve the problem. And we can still do it even here. Because here, the good thing is that the environment is good. We have abundance of rain. The arable land in Kenya is bigger than, it's enough to produce enough food to feed our population. Yeah.
Let's take a break at 29 minutes to 9. The Honourable Wanyonyi, MP for Westlands Constituency, is our guest. We're talking about this issue with the high cost of living, especially food items. What next for Kenyans? What are the ideas that our leaders have? That's what we want to hear from him.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.